Hi, fantasy readers. This is Corinne Norton, your fellow book binger, and you are listening to the Finding Fantasy Reads podcast, where you can test out a new fantasy story every single week to find your next favorite author. You'll want to stick around for today's story if you like magic, dragons, and sweet romance. It's written by J.M. Hackman, an award-winning author of the Firebrand Chronicles and the Stardust Hearts series, who loves thunderstorms, fuzzy socks, and thick chocolate milkshakes. Her engaging fantasy and soft science fiction stories are threaded with hope and always end with a happily ever after. While her characters are fearless, JM is afraid of spiders, wasps, and the crowds at post-Christmas sales. I actually love that last one because I have been terrified of going out in public on Black Friday, because when I was 18, I worked at Target and every day they put me in soft lines, but for some reason on Black Friday, they stuck me in the toy department. I can still picture wide-eyed parents running at me with the ad and screaming questions about where different toys were. It was terrifying. Anyway, when JM isn't writing, she reads, crafts, watches football, and adventures with her family in the mountains of rural Pennsylvania. Today's narrator is Paeter Frandsen, host of Christian Geek Central. Stick around to the end or check out today's show notes to see where you can find more from both the author and the narrator, as well as how to enter our latest giveaway. For now, please enjoy The Greatest Adventure by J.M. Hackman.
If I do not find a more exciting job, I will go mad. After many months of being taught how to use his Firebrand talent, Aiden Serial had received his level 5 guild mark and completed his training. Several small tasks later, his instructor had given him this assignment, helping the blacksmith start his fire. As the town of Linnea woke up, Aiden walked back to the Firebrand Guild Hall. He manipulated a single flame from his index finger to his pinky finger before he extinguished it. The morning sun warmed his head, and he inhaled the fragrance of wood smoke mingling with the ocean breeze. Vendors pulled wagons of their goods to market, many of them greeting him as he passed. Clusters of children headed for the conservatory, their shouts and laughter carrying in the morning air. His friend Byron met him outside the guild hall. "And how is the smithy this morning?" "Same as always." "You know, you need to sign up for an apprenticeship position. Today is the last day." Aiden grimaced. "I was hoping for a travel assignment." Byron raised his eyebrows. "Did you ask Cannon?" "I should not have to. I completed my training, and my last 3 assignments were a success. What more does he want?" "Luz always asks." "Luz is a half-baked bully." "Yes, but that half-baked bully is getting travel assignments." Aiden stifled a sigh and kicked at the dirt in front of the guild hall steps. "I just want to see the world, experience wonders and adventures beyond this small town. Is that too much to ask?" A messenger boy skidded to a stop in front of the two of them. "I've a missive for the Firebrand instructor, Canon Vane." Aiden eyed the foreigner. The use of contractions, never found in Linnean speech, always gave them away. "From who?" The boy took another deep lungful of air, his cheeks rosy. "From the new king of Fallon, King Everil." Byron raised his eyebrows. "The Bitland territory?" Aiden held out a hand. "Firebrand Aiden Serial. I can deliver it to him." The messenger lifted his bag. "I've 8 more to deliver, so I appreciate it." He handed over the message and rushed away. The envelope was sealed with a thick glob of wax imprinted with the flowing letters M.E. Both young men hurried into the main room, the wooden walls hung with woven tapestries. Dust motes danced in the shafts of spring sunlight streaming through the windows. Vane stood in a corner, talking with the infirmary supervisor. "How many from last night?" "Just 2, Lord Vane, but that brings the total of your 6 students to 9. The virus hits hard, and they are usually too weak to self-heal until several days have passed. We are allowing them to rest and encouraging their intake of fluids. That is all we can do as the virus runs its course. Perhaps in a day or 2 they can attempt self-healing." The supervisor gave a slight shrug. Vane rubbed his forehead before noticing Aiden. Aiden held out the ivory envelope. A message for you, my lord, from King Everil of Fallon. The older man's heavy brows rose as he took the envelope. Thank you. Please help Byron move to the greenhouses today. His specialist wants him there this weekend. Yes, my lord. Aidan walked away with Byron, his mind still on the message. The Bitland territory, a landmass across the sea to the west, rarely contacted them. As Aidan helped Byron move, his thoughts wandered. What did the king want? Has a war broken out? Or maybe it was only an invitation to a boring council meeting. By supper time, his hope of a travel assignment had withered to a cold, hard knot in his chest. The apprenticeship sign-up sheet in the guild hallway listed depressing choices: candle maker, stable hand, sundial designer, tanner. He sighed. The stable it was. He grabbed the pencil from the table to cement his fate when Vane's voice stopped him. Cyril, pack your bags. I'm sending you to the Bitland territory tomorrow. He turned to face his instructor, shock making him a bit lightheaded. Of course. The man folded his arms, his brow furrowed. King Everil's sister, Princess Nissa, was kidnapped a year ago. Preliminary efforts to find her have been unsuccessful, and the searchers never returned. Rumors are the old dragon, Gordonbland, is responsible for the abduction. Although firebrands are the preferred talent to deal with dragons, be extremely careful. I wish I could send a companion with you, but too many of the students are ill. Excitement zipped through his veins. This is what he had been hoping for. And a dragon? He had heard of them, but had yet to lay eyes on one. I expect you to follow 2 rules. Number 1, if you find the princess, return her to Fallon immediately. And number 2, do not engage in an unnecessary firefight with a dragon, because you will lose. Yes, my lord. Leave at first light. Overjoyed, Aidan quickly packed and messaged his griffin Lysander. Although restless with excitement, he was grateful their bond, called a vinculus, allowed them to communicate mentally. Lysander, be ready to leave early in the morning. We have a travel assignment. I will be ready. Get some sleep so I can get mine. Dawn pinked the sky as Lysander rose into the air. The dragon's home lay 2 days away over the Arrowin Sea. The long trip offered mile after mile of blue ocean and foamy white caps. After a full day of flying, they bedded down under the stars on the western coast of Matana Island. The second day was much like the first, and they arrived on the sandy shore of Fallon as the sun sank. Rather than trek into an unknown area in the dark, Aidan and Lysander spent the evening on the beautiful white sand beach. The Petrus rings, glittering bands of blue and gold, stretched across the night sky. Aidan pondered his next move. Vane had been stingy with details, mentioning only the city. Do you know where Gordonbland's lair is located? Lysander snorted. I wondered when you would ask. The dragon has always lived on the highest mountain. The tree canopy is too dense for aerial exploration. You will have to hike in. Of course, because nothing about rescues was easy. The next morning, they woke far earlier than was usual due to the rising sun and the noisy gulls searching for breakfast. Aidan rubbed away the tension in his shoulders. He would have to be shrewd and quick, with no stupid mistakes. Get in, find the princess, and get out, Cyril. After a quick breakfast, they made their way inland. Dark evergreens and pale-leafed ghost oaks created a canopy overhead, the trill of bird song threading through the foliage. Fypex ferns covered the ground, their warm vanilla fragrance scenting the air. Their route brought them to a flat pasture with a stream-fed lake, but ahead waited a thick forest with dense underbrush. He turned to Lysander. Can you wait here for me? His griffin nodded and settled, folding his massive wings against his body. Yes, please alert me if you need help. The top of the mountain remained visible, yet wreathed in wispy clouds. After climbing the arduous path to the summit, Aidan began to search for a cave. A half-hour later, he aggressively slashed at a vine, then paused to catch his breath. A dragon should be easier to find. There should be the stink of sulfur and a powerful roar, and... He froze, his breath stalling in his throat. Next to a tree root lay a substantial pile of human bones. He inched around the classic hallmark of a dragon's lair, and in seconds came upon a cave. A rhythmic clink, crack, thunk slowed his steps, until he could peer around the side of the rocky face. Outside, a chained individual chopped wood. He studied the filthy figure. Man? Woman? Creature? Matted hair, mud-streaked face, and dirty clothes created a perplexing disguise. Maybe the person knows where the princess is, or perhaps they are a willing accomplice. Despite the lengthy chain, dragons had the ability to seduce their captives. Then, when rescue arrived, it was turned away, and the liberator became lunch. When the individual moved a little further away to gather more wood, Aiden slipped inside the entrance. Down and around, he followed the twisting path. The glow of firelight drew him deeper. The cave opened to a larger cavern, filled with shadows. A massive dark form slumbered near a low fire in the center of the pit, the loud snoring carrying to the passageway. From his place on the path above, Aiden tucked himself into a crevice and scanned the area for the princess. At a sudden metallic rattle, Aiden jumped. When he turned, the mud-soaked figure held a finger to its lips and pulled him toward the opening. "You should leave." The individual's feminine voice was hushed. "He'll detect you before long, and you're not very good at hiding. Or maybe I'm just very good at smelling. You don't smell anything like the dragon." "That is reassuring." The girl's stench wasn't like a dragon, but it was close. Aiden tried to breathe through his mouth. "But as I said, you need to leave before Gordon Bland catches your scent. After that happens, it's not long before he eats you." "Why does he not eat you?" "I cover myself with the mud from the northernmost hillside. That covers my human odor and makes my aroma less like dinner, though he threatens to eat me every day. Good night, Rivka. Enjoy your sleep if you can. Perhaps I'll eat you for breakfast tomorrow. It's an empty threat. He's nearly blind, and my work makes life easy for him." She shrugged a thin shoulder. "Are you happy here?" Rivka blinked. "Of course not, but there's no chance to escape." "I would like to rescue you and the princess." She gave him a critical once-over. "You and whose army? Who are you?" He thrust his shoulders back. "Aiden Serial, a level 5 firebrand from Linnea." The girl's face remained impassive. The pride leaked out of him, and he continued. "The princess's brother sent word she had been kidnapped. The townspeople beg for her return." Her lovely eyes turned sad. "Oh, the princess would have been so touched." "Would have been?" Lead settled in his gut. "She no longer walks the earth, my lord. The dragon ate her not long after kidnapping her. I'm her replacement." He sagged against the cave's entrance. The possibility had never occurred to him. He exhaled. "Then at least let me help you escape." She drew back with wide eyes. "There will be no recompense for a slave's return. No one's waiting for me." "That is not my goal. Your life, is valuable." He peered into her dirty face. "Do you want to be free?" "Of course." Then a roar, followed by a flash of fire, filled the cavern below. "Go!" she shoved him, "before he discovers you." In a rush, Aiden stumbled into the bright sunshine. How could he rescue the slave? He waited in the woods, creating and discarding several plans. Minutes later, the girl left the cave and returned to the woodpile. She saw him waiting in the woods and gestured for him to come closer. "He detected your scent, but I convinced him it was me. I won't be able to do that again." "Thank you." Aiden bit his lip. "The dragon will have to sleep at some point. Maybe then I can help the slave escape." She smiled, beautiful despite the filth on her face. "I have a plan. Gordon Bland needs to eat. It's been 2 days. But tonight, I will fall ill. Cover yourself with the mud from the northernmost hill, and when he goes hunting, I'll meet you at the entrance." "Why do I need the mud if we will be leaving?" He'll notice your scent in the cave when you collect the fire diamonds, of course. Use the mud. You'll need it." Another roar, and Rivka flinched. She spun, grabbed an armful of wood, and disappeared into the cave. Diamonds? Frowning, he rubbed his temples. He would ask later. With the plan set up and nothing better to replace it, Aiden left to find the mud. An hour later, a noxious stench filled the air, and he discovered a hillside covered in the oozing muck. After eating a quick meal of wild berries and dried meat from his pack, he covered himself with the sludge, then hurried back to his hiding place in the woods to wait for his opportunity. Early evening turned to a dusky twilight, and Aiden became desperate. Aside from the smell, which had almost caused him to lose his light supper, Rivka had failed to mention the mud itched everywhere it touched. His neck, his face, his arms, even under his shirt where he had smeared some to hide his scent. The prickliness drove him insane. He stifled a groan and stretched to rub the middle of his back. In the middle of his scratching, a threatening shadow darkened the cave entrance. From his hiding place, Aiden received his first look at Gordon Bland. Covered in glistening blood-red scales, the massive dragon could fill the guild hall. His great, bulbous snout breathed steam, and wings like large sails folded near his enormous bulk. All four of his feet were topped with claws that looked like butcher's knives. Rows of razor-sharp teeth filled his mouth. His cloudy, golden eyes failed to make him any less terrifying. Aiden started when Rivka stumbled into view, coughing.
"Climb on, girl."
The dragon flicked open a clasp on her shackles and dropped into a crouch. "But Lord Gordon Bland, I'm very ill." A blast of fire from the dragon's mouth seared the air near Rivka.
"Climb on, now. I will not repeat myself again."
As she climbed onto the dragon's back, her gaze swept the forest before finding Aiden. She shrugged, her face sorrowful, as the dragon's immense wings carried her away. Aiden rubbed his back against a nearby tree to soothe his irritated skin. He settled into his hiding spot to continue scratching. The ooze had hardened under his nails. If he did not stop, he would have to reapply the disgusting stuff. He reached for Lysander's presence at the bottom of the mountain. "Be aware, the dragon is out hunting." "Thank you, but I am already waiting for sleep. This rescue is not progressing well. Have you found the princess?" Aiden massaged his temples. "The dragon's slave informs me she was killed. The slave is her replacement. Unfortunate. We will have to return home empty-handed." "No." Aiden took a deep breath. "I am rescuing the slave." "The king will not be interested in a mere slave. Are you sure this is wise?" Not really, but something about her pulled at him. He would never be able to return home, knowing he had left someone behind, even if others would deem her worthless. He didn't need payment, just a clear conscience. "Her life is valuable. If you think of a plan, let me know. Sleep well." He lay back and began to scheme. The next afternoon, the itching had passed into a dry, mild discomfort. Aiden refused to contemplate how bad he smelled. Rivka met him outside near the woodpile and smiled. "You don't have to layer the mud on as thick as you have." "I wanted to be thorough." She raised an eyebrow but changed the subject, keeping her voice low. "I don't have much time. I'm trying to appear sicker, but Gordon Bland doesn't care. He still wants the work done, so I have to move slower, cough a lot. It might convince him." Her eyes sparkled, hope filling them. Aiden had never seen violet eyes like hers, kind of a periwinkle shade of... He mentally shook himself. "Will it be long before he needs to eat again?" "Since he only found a rabbit last night, he'll have to go again tonight." He nodded once. "I will wait for you here after he leaves." "But what about the diamonds? I can't leave them." He frowned. "Yes, you mentioned them previously. What diamonds?" "You haven't heard of them? The fire diamonds of Fallon? Gordonbland stole them from the royal family years ago, and they must be returned. Bring them with you. She bit her lip. I can't. He keeps them on a very high ledge. He stifled a sigh. Rescues never went smoothly. I will retrieve them for you before we leave then. Rivka smiled her thanks and hurried back to the cave. After an afternoon nap, Aiden set a trap far from the dragon's cave and caught a rabbit for his own supper. He then headed back to wait for the dragon to leave. About the same time as the previous night, the dragon lumbered into view, Rivka trailing him. He stifled a curse. Unbelievable. He offered a wry wave as Rivka climbed on the dragon's back and sailed into the dark sky. So much for the escape plan. But what if he recovered the diamonds now? Then, when Gordonbland left without Rivka, they could flee more quickly. The dragon will finally leave without her. He has to. Hurrying toward the cave, he produced a small flame to guide him through the twisting passageways. When he reached the cavern, he coaxed the flame into a large glowing ball to illuminate his surroundings. He gasped. Every surface glittered, gleamed, or shone. Precious coins and boxes made of Zoharit silver and miner's gold rested in piles. Mountains of jewels dripped from nooks and crannies, rare gems winking from their settings. Turning in a circle, he drank in the wealth stacked around him. His gaze caught on the impressive pile of bones in the far corner, and he swallowed hard. Could not forget that. But no fire diamonds. What had Rivka said? A very high ledge. Holding the flame higher, he searched the upper places in the grotto. More gems in an array of colors filled alcoves and corners. No red flashes caught his eye, but near the ceiling, a shelf carved into the rough cave wall held red gems of every size and shape. There was no way to identify them from this distance. Aiden sighed. Rescues never went smoothly. He lit the still smoldering wood in the fire pit and inspected the rough walls for a way up. When he finally found a promising start with lots of spaces to place toes and fingers, he began to climb. Halfway up, his shirt hung heavy, drenched in sweat. Was there enough mud left to mask his scent? And how much time did he have to find the diamonds? Hours, days, eons later, Aiden reached the ledge. Up close, it was larger than expected, and if he moved a few jewels to the side, he could sit on the edge. After a brief rest, he began his painstaking search. Inspect a handful of gems, move them aside, and crawl forward, over and over. After inspecting most of the jewels on the ledge, a snarling sounded outside the cave. Panic clawed at his throat. Trapped. His eyes widened at the fire burning in the pit. Although the dragon was nearly blind, nobody could miss the heat from the orange and yellow flames. Gordonbland thundered into the cavern, Rivka following behind.
What is that smell?
The dragon growled, the steam puffing from his nostrils a warning. It's probably me, my lord. Her cough rattled in her chest. Aiden peered over the edge of his hiding spot. She sounded horrible. Was she still pretending?
Your scent is making me hungry. I will fly you to the hillside to put on some more of that lovely ooze, unless you want to be breakfast.
The dragon smiled, his teeth glinting in the light. Rivka flopped against the wall. I'm sorry, my lord, I can't. When I recover my strength, I will, but I'm sicker than I was yesterday. This time, her deep cough lasted for several long seconds, until Aiden feared she would throw up or pass out. The dragon settled his bulk against the wall.
Didn't you put out the fire before, like I told you?
Rivka shook her head, her eyes drifting closed. I don't remember. Maybe I forgot. A shot of fire issued from Gordonbland's mouth.
Do not disobey me again.
Her response was a whisper of sound. Sorry. Rivka drifted into a fitful sleep, tossing and turning on the hard floor. Aiden rolled his shoulders and peered over the ledge for the 100th time, as Rivka coughed again in her sleep. Her charade had become truth. She was really ill. The dragon's demands woke Aiden from a shallow sleep. Rivka huddled near the fire, trembling. He frowned. Fever.
Rivka, get more wood for the fire, and bring in 2 armloads this time.
She stumbled up the path leading out of the cavern and disappeared. When she came back with an armload of wood, Aiden gestured frantically from his perch, but she failed to see him. The next time she returned with the second armload of wood, he tossed a small gem to land near her feet. She glanced up and up and up until her eyes locked with Aiden's. He could only shrug and wave weakly at her shocked expression. While the long hours passed, he picked through a few remaining gems on the ledge. 3 fire diamonds lay tucked against the wall at the far end. 2 fit in his palm, while the third was half the size and a darker red than the others. The facets of each diamond dazzled with reds, oranges, and flashes of yellow. Tucking them into a pouch at his side, he leaned over the edge to check Rivka again. She slept, curled into a ball near the fire's heat. Gordon Bland napped on and off all afternoon as well. Finally, as supper time neared, the dragon stirred from his resting place.
I suppose I must get the healer for you. Training another individual is ridiculous since you work well enough. I will return before the sun sets.
He turned to go, but jerked to a stop.
What is that smell?
I told you, my lord, it's—
No!
he thundered.
I detect a foreign scent.
Rivka turned a lovely shade of green. Aiden mentally called for his griffin. Please come to the cave, but stay hidden. Gordon Bland has not eaten much and is hungry. Lysander replied, I am on my way.
Who have you hidden in my cave?
Fire streamed from the dragon's mouth. I haven't hidden anyone. Rivka shook her head, clutching her stomach. I've been sick for the last 3 days.
Then someone has crept in, uninvited.
At another roar, a pile of gems toppled from a towering pile.
Find him for me.
Rivka rushed for the corner and threw up. Gordon Bland pulled back.
Ugh, another disgusting odor.
His bleary eyes scanned the cave, playing over Aiden's hiding spot.
You are becoming more trouble than you are worth. Clean up your mess, then search the cave. I want the interloper found.
The dragon began to investigate the back reaches of the cavern, while Rivka struggled to her feet. Aiden clenched his hands, powerlessness sweeping over him. He could not stand by while Rivka dealt with the dragon alone. Creeping to the ledge's rim, he began to grope his way down the wall. His muscles shook with the strain. When he missed a toehold, pebbles scattered to the floor. Gordon Bland whirled in his direction.
Declare yourself, trespasser.
Rivka grabbed a stone and threw it in the opposite direction, the action causing her to quiver and hold her hands out for balance. The stone crashed into a stash of coins, the clamor loud in the cavern. The dragon turned.
Where is he, girl?
Rivka squeezed her eyes shut. I don't see anyone, my lord. Aiden continued his descent. As he neared the bottom, Lysander contacted him. I have a plan, but it is dangerous. Be at the entrance. At the moment, I am busy trying to stay alive. I pray this monster will listen to logic. Be at the entrance as soon as possible. Monster? Lysander? There was no answer. Gordon Bland searched in the far corner near the spilled coins, snuffling in the piles of loose change. I see something, my lord, Rivka called. Whatever it is, it's trying to hide in the corner. Aiden dropped to the floor, his arms feeling like overdone pasta. The two inched toward the exit while the dragon continued searching.
Where is he hiding now? Girl?
Rivka froze, her dirty face almost white. The other corner now, my lord. Aiden located the latch on her handcuffs and flipped it. After gingerly placing the chains on the ground, they rushed toward the light streaming from the entrance. From below, a bellow and blast of fire lit up the cave, throwing the path into bright light. Rivka whimpered and slapped a hand over her mouth. They cleared the cave and ducked as Lysander flew just over their heads. A purple dragon raced behind him, its roar filling the air. Another dragon! Under the mud smeared on her face, Rivka grew paler and grabbed Aiden's arm. Lysander, do you need our help? We are out of the cave, Aiden messaged. No, head down the mountain. I will meet you at the lake at the bottom. Fly true, Lysander. Come quickly. Aiden pulled her toward the path, and Gordon Bland emerged from the cave.
Interloper! Thief!
Long streams of fire belched from the dragon's maw.
I will pin you down and tear you open while you scream.
Although he tried to run faster, Rivka's feet tangled in the underbrush. Aiden helped her over the tree root, then made the mistake of looking back. Not more than 10 feet away and closing fast, the dragon pounded toward them. Aiden's griffin dove from the sky. With a piercing cry, he raked his talons across Gordon Bland's head before escaping. When the dragon looked up, screaming, the purple dragon dropped to the ground, its immense body reared up in a challenge.
Your terrorizing stops here. Out of the way, Salamander. This is not your problem.
Salamander? Have you forgotten me so soon, Gordon Bland?
Who, Drazel?
The blind dragon squinted.
You left decades ago.
Fascinated, Aiden paused near a pine tree, then forced himself to pull away from the scene. Rivka still trembled beside him. Come, let us be off. He put an arm around her shoulder to escort her away. No! Rivka rubbed her arms as her teeth chattered. I want to see what happens. Aiden pulled her closer and whispered in her ear. You are very sick. The sooner we get off this mountain, the better you will feel. Her eyes grew flinty, and her chin jutted out. No, I'm staying. Saints and sinners, she was stubborn. Drazel paced back and forth in front of the old dragon. I left to learn and grow. The old ways are gone. Respectable dragons do not keep prisoners. We live at peace with all.
Ridiculous! All living things, especially frail humans, need to learn their place between our teeth.
He released a blinding flash of fire, scenting the air with a lingering odor of sulfur. Drazel issued a long draft of flames. No, I will not allow it any longer. You are a menace to all, and an embarrassment to dragons. Both of them rose in the air simultaneously, their claws extended, flames flashing. Aiden, where are you? Lysander's message shook Aiden from his stupefied wonder. Sorry, we are still on the mountain, watching the dragons fight. Get down here, now. He winced as Gordon Bland swiped a vicious claw at Drazel's head. After another strike, blood dripped from between the purple dragon's eyes. I cannot. Drazel is not doing well. I will send Rivka down. He turned to Rivka. Go to the lake at the bottom of the mountain. I am going to help Drazel. She shook her head, her eyes wide in her muddy face. Why? You will die. Probably. Not necessarily. If we are to live at peace with dragons, I want to help Drazel to that end. Now go. Take the path. My griffin, Lysander, is waiting. He gave her a little nudge down the path. She staggered forward and looked back once before continuing. Staying near the tree line, Aiden drew closer to the fighting dragons. This was quite possibly one of the dumbest things he had ever done, but Drazel struggled in this fight. Wily and strong, the older dragon took advantage of the younger's weaknesses. Drazel landed next to the older dragon, then lashed out once, twice. his claws raking through Gordon Bland's tough hide. A blast of fire from the elder dragon forced him back.
"You are outmatched, salamander, and it will be a pleasure to kill you."
With a burst of power, the older dragon shot up the air, his tail whipsawing and catching Drazel on the side of his head. The younger dragon stumbled and fell. After a moment he stood, still unsteady. Gordon Bland roared in triumph and issued a blast of fire onto his opponent. Lowering his head to avoid the flames, Drazel caught sight of Aiden and squinted before shaking his head. Aiden ignored the warning and asked Elion for strength, wisdom, and blistering heat for his fire. When Gordon Bland landed a few feet away, Aiden stepped out from his hiding place. Power gathered in his wrists, pooled in his hands. "I stand with Drazel." He opened his palms, allowing the power to escape. A rolling line of tall, blue flames, known as dragon's breath, poured from his palms and hit the dragon square in his face. The dragon loosed an unearthly scream, rearing up as his eyes burned. The opening gave Drazel a prime opportunity, and he moved in with a blast of his own fire and several deep slashes across Gordon Bland's underside. As the old dragon turned and unleashed a surging blanket of flames, Aiden discharged a firewall. The resulting heat and explosion caused him to fall back. With a gurgling wheeze, the old dragon collapsed, his sightless eyes rolling. Blood poured from the wounds, pooling underneath his massive body. Then all was quiet. Drazel's steady eyes never left Gordon Bland.
"It would be wise to remain at a distance until he is unquestionably deceased."
Aiden wiped his sweating hands on his pants and waited for his heartbeat to return to normal. The younger dragon spoke again.
"You were not wise, but you were brave. What is your name?"
"Aiden Serial, a firebrand from the Jasper territory."
"You have my thanks, and the help of the dragons of Fallon, if it is ever needed."
Aiden inclined his head. "Thank you. I appreciate you not eating my griffin. I will tell the king of your service in dispatching Gordon Bland. Otherwise, you will have searchers amassing on these hills to hunt you. What will be done with the fortune in Gordon Bland's cave?" The dragon studied him.
"You are not taking it for yourself?"
"Just the fire diamonds that must be returned to the royal family."
"My tribe and I will take half of the treasure. You may take the other half, and do with it whatever you deem fit."
Aiden's mouth fell open. Visions of what he could do with the wealth spun through his head until clearer thinking prevailed. Thank you, Drazel. That is most generous. I will offer it to the king of Fallon."
"Give my tribe 2 days, then the king's men may come to collect their share."
"Of course."
"Until we meet again, Firebrand."
The purple dragon turned and rose into the sky. Aiden walked the perimeter of the battle, putting out the small fires that still burned before heading down the mountain. The sun sank below a bank of clouds hanging near the horizon, and his stomach grumbled. His last meal had been too long ago. He messaged his griffin. "Is Rivka there?"
"She is sleeping, but will need care soon. There is some meadow fever bush nearby if you wish to make tea."
"I am coming." He hurried down the mountain path. Lysander had set up camp under a stand of trees. Rivka slept quietly in the grass while his griffin stood watch. After quickly preparing the fever bush leaves, he started a fire and put some water on to boil. Lysander promised to keep an eye on it while Aiden went to bathe in the lake. Hopefully, Rivka's nap would be beneficial. Then, when she woke, he could use his gift to remove her fever. He sank under the cool water and scrubbed his face. How long would it be before Rivka improved? Who did she belong to? Were her parents still alive? Did she have a lover? He choked, swallowing a mouthful of lake water, and came up, coughing. Despite the thick layer of mud covering her, hints of her beauty shone underneath. Perhaps there was a little attraction there. It was only natural he would notice. Feeling better about that train of thought, he climbed out of the lake and dressed in the only other dry thing he had packed, a clean set of pants. He rinsed the mud out of his shirt and returned to the campsite. After hanging the shirt on a nearby bush to dry, he walked over to where Rivka lay resting. He poured the boiling water into a cup, submerging the leaves, and took it to her. "Are you feeling better?" "I'm not as tired, but I feel hot." "It is the fever. Have some tea. It will help bring your fever down, and then I can remove some of the heat from your system." She tossed him a side glance. "What happened on the mountain?" Drazel challenged Gordonbland. The old dragon refused to back down, so Drazel killed him. He watched her expression. She took a sip of tea. "Why do you keep looking at me like that?" Aiden averted his gaze as he settled next to her. "I just wondered if you were close to Gordonbland." She spit out a laugh that quickly transformed into coughing. Another swallow of tea calmed it. "No, no more than a prisoner becomes close to his jailer." "Good. The world is better without that dragon. Thankfully, the tribe Drazel leads is peaceful." He stretched out his legs. "What do we do with the fire diamonds?" "Oh, you found them? Those belonged to the deceased king. His mother had given them to him and explained they were enchanted, full of a strong magic." "How did you learn this?" She scrutinized the leaves at the bottom of her cup. "Gordonbland shared all of his victories with me. This was one of many against the Fallon royals." "I will return them to King Maxim then." Finishing her tea, she gave the cup back to Aiden. He put it aside and turned to catch her eyeing his bare chest. She looked away, blushing, and studied her muddy pants. He bit back a grin. "Would you allow me to remove some of your fever?" When she nodded, he placed his hand on her flushed neck, her collarbones delicate under his fingers. He closed his eyes and pulled the heat into his hands. Turning, he removed one hand and released the heat, a flame exploding from his fingers. Rivka gasped, her eyes going wide. "Shh, do not be afraid." He touched her throat again, her pulse thrumming under his thumb. Her skin where the mud had worn away was as soft as silk. Closing his eyes for a moment, he focused on driving the infection from her system. In less than a minute, her skin cooled, the redness receding, but he felt as if he had taken her fever himself. He reluctantly removed his hands and sat back. She was a puzzle. Kind, stubborn, intelligent, modest. Yet her presence made him feel as unsure as a young schoolboy. Her voice interrupted his musing. "I'd love a bath in the lake, but I don't have another outfit. I don't suppose you have extra clothes in that bag." "Sorry, but there is a blanket. You could wear the blanket, and we could hang your clothes near the fire to dry." Her eyes narrowed. He held up his hands. "You have nothing to fear from me, and Lysander is here to further protect your virtue." She stood. "If I have your promise as a gentleman, I will take that blanket and go wash in the lake. I can't wait to get the dirt and the stink off my skin." "I completely understand." Aiden retrieved the blanket, and she hurried off to the lake. He turned to Lysander. "Would you be willing to stand watch over her while she bathes?" His griffin hesitated, then nodded. "Why all this trouble for a slave? When you present this girl to the king, he will not care this peasant was saved. He will only mourn the sister he lost." "I could not leave her behind." His griffin leaned close, his eyes piercing. "You are falling in love with her." Rolling his eyes, Aiden forced a laugh. "I just met her." Lysander turned and padded toward the lake, his voice carrying behind him. "The heart knows what it wants." Indeed, and Aiden did not know what to do with his. They all awoke the next morning refreshed. Rivka left to dress in her dry clothes and wash her face in the stream. She returned to the campfire with a handful of berries. "There is more near the lake shore." The beauty hiding under all that mud was now on full display. Even first thing in the morning she was stunning. Her hair had dried into a cascade of chestnut waves, framing a porcelain complexion. Aiden pulled his gaze from her mouth, glistening with berry juice. A quick breakfast, then we must fly to the castle. She tilted her head. Why? To share with the king the sad news of his sister's death, and to offer him the remaining treasures in Gordon Bland's cave. Ah, she nodded, her dark violet eyes speculative. Why not keep it for yourself? The king will never know. He shook his head. But I will, as will Elion, although a few gems would be nice. For wine, women, and song? Not quite. You have a sweetheart at home, then? Someone you're planning to marry? Again, no. He grinned. Is this a game? How do I win? Her lips quirked, and she shook her head. I'm trying to find out what makes Aiden Cereal get up in the morning. He spread his arms wide. The greatest adventure. What about you? What makes Rivka get up in the morning? The amused expression slipped from her face. I don't know any more. My position is gone. Perhaps the king will grant me a recommendation. Aiden's heart clenched at the lost look in her eyes. You could come to Linnea with me. Where did those words come from? Her mouth dropped open. Oh, that is, a generous offer, but unnecessary. Lightness filled his chest. I disagree. You are without family, without a position. There are opportunities in Linnea. She shook her head. Thank you, Aiden, but I would miss Fallon too much. His stomach dropped. Of course. Maybe there was a lover waiting for her somewhere. After a breakfast of berries, they mounted Lysander and flew toward the castle. The landscape below changed from mountains to green valleys filled with lakes. Fallon's lush beauty included every shade of green ever imagined. The castle, an imposing structure of tan stone, stood tall above the verdant valley. Prosperous farms of cattle, grain, and other crops filled the outlying areas, and as they flew closer to the castle, the city came into view. Rivka turned slightly and frowned. Perhaps you should drop me off outside the castle gates. The king may not be happy to see a slave when he was hoping for his sister. Aiden squeezed her hand. Of course, he will be sad his sister is gone, but I cannot see him punishing you for his disappointment. Besides, we can obtain that recommendation you mentioned. As Lysander landed on the castle grounds, Aiden's heart plummeted. In moments, they would meet the king and be separated. He fought the feeling of loss. This was what was supposed to happen. Before he could reconsider his words, he turned to Rivka. Do you think perhaps I could see you again? Her mouth opened, closed, and opened again. Why ever would you want to? With the wealth coming your way, you will have your choice of any beauty who crosses your path. I am not interested in any beauty. I am interested in this beauty. Her mouth twisted. I do not need your pity, Aiden. I've made it this far. I will manage a little farther until I can establish a job and housing for myself. Rivka! Her name exploded from his mouth, all sharp points and angles. This is not pity. Then what is it? She crossed her arms. He reached out, caressing her cheek. I do not know, but I would like to find out. She swayed toward him. Aiden, you should know. 2 guards approached. Greetings. What is your purpose here? Rivka dropped her gaze and stepped back, the intimate connection disappearing. Aiden studied her face, but it offered no clues. Turning to the guards, he introduced himself and stated his request to see the king. The guards escorted them into the castle and out to the courtyard, where the king was eating a late breakfast. Before they entered the square, Rivka halted. I'll wait here until you have spoken to him. That is unnecessary. I will wait. Aiden sighed and threw his hands up. Very well. The king sat on the far side of the courtyard out of the early sun's rays. A small table with bread, cheese, roasted meat, and a glass of light ale sat untouched as the man stared into the distance. The servant approached the king. Majesty, You have a visitor. Hmm? Oh, yes, bring him over. Aidan approached the young king. In his late 20s, premature gray had already touched his temples, and weariness lined his blue eyes. Grief settled across his shoulders like a tattered cape. Aidan gave a small bow. King Maxim, I am Aidan Serial of Linnea. You asked my mentor Canon Vane for help, and I journeyed to your mountains to fulfill your request. A spark of hope flared in the king's eyes, turning them a purplish blue. You've returned, which is more than many of your predecessors managed. Please sit and eat with me. Aidan's stomach rumbled, and his cheeks warmed. I do not want to impose, Your Majesty. Nonsense. It's the least I can do. Aidan sat, and servants scurried to provide another plate setting and a glass of ale. Thank you. He took a drink and tried to avoid thinking about the bad news he had for the king. After several minutes of small talk, the king leaned forward. What did you find? With the help of Drazel, another dragon, we killed Gordonbland. Drazel is interested in living with humans peacefully. He agreed to split the contents of Gordonbland's cave. By tomorrow evening, the dragons will have taken their share. Your men may gather the other half. That is an unusually generous agreement. To demonstrate our gratitude for your help, you are welcome to half of our share. Aidan opened and shut his mouth. He swallowed and finally managed to reply, Thank you, Your Majesty. He paused, his chest tightening before he continued. I am sorry, but your sister was killed by the dragon. He had captured a slave to take her place. The spark burning in the king's eyes extinguished. He stared into his glass, his shoulders stooped. I see. Thank you for your efforts. I'd hoped. But of course, it was a slim chance. His voice broke on the last word. My greatest sympathy for your loss. I did find the fire diamonds Gordonbland took from the royal family. Pulling them from his pouch, Aidan placed all 3 gems on the table between them. King Maxim cleared his throat. I didn't expect to see those again. I am glad I could return them to you. I also have a humble request. Aidan waited, praying for as much of the king's favor as possible. Yes, of course. King Maxim pulled his gaze from the gems. The fire diamonds were recovered with the slave Rivka's help. She made sure I found them to return to you, but she has nowhere to go, no family. Would you be willing to help her, maybe find a position for her? The king nodded. Yes, I'd be more... His mouth dropped open as tears filled his eyes. Aidan turned. Rivka approached, a beautiful smile gracing her lips. Nissa, King Maxim rasped, before pushing away from the table and catching Rivka up in a giant hug. Aidan stood confused, his brow wrinkled. Nissa? After being released from the king's hug, Rivka gave Aidan a sheepish smile as she wiped away her tears. It's a pleasure to meet you, Aidan Serial. I'm Princess Nissa of Fallon. As news of the princess's return spread, many castle servants bustled into the small courtyard to welcome her home. Her gentle spirit and quick laugh had clearly made her a favorite among the servants. Aidan stood off to the side, stunned and frowning at the turn of events. Why had she lied to him? And what was he supposed to do now? Eventually, the uproar settled. King Maxim grinned, Nissa tucked close to his side. A feast tonight, honoring the return of the princess and the brave firebrand Aidan Serial. As the cheer went up, several servants clapped him on the back and pumped his hand. Nissa's eyes met his, but before he could speak, a servant pulled him aside. This way, dearie, the heavy-set woman chattered as she led him down the hallway. Things are in an uproar, they are. So wonderful you saved the princess and killed the dragon. She opened the door to a bedroom. Make yourself comfortable. Can I get you anything? No? If you're sure, then. She offered him a bright smile and left. Aidan fidgeted, sat on the edge of the bed, then stood. The luxurious room smothered him, and he stepped out onto his balcony for the fresh breeze. A stunning view of the countryside spread before him, and further still in the distance, a silver strip of the ocean glimmered. Perhaps he should contact his griffin and fly home. He was uninterested in the treasure, the king's blessing, or any other material possession. If he traveled to the dragon's cave, he could grab a few baubles and fly home. The one thing he wanted was Rivka, who was fictional. He had never been introduced to Nissa, the royal princess, who got her fun by duping stupid firebrands. The taste of her deception hung sour in his mouth. "I expected you'd be out here, enjoying the view." He whirled at her voice, and she walked closer. "How did you get in?" She raised an eyebrow and smiled. "Through the door? Like almost everyone else I know, unless firebrands do things differently." He turned, giving her his back. "No, we are like most people. For example, we do not like being lied to." "Oh, I'm sorry, Aidan. I had very good reasons for doing what I did." "I cannot imagine what they might be." The touch of her warm hand on his forearm was sweet torture. "I wanted to see if you were a man of character. Some men would be interested in only attaining the fire diamonds of Fallon. After all, they've been sought after for years for the magic they offer. I was pleased to discover your deep integrity, even if no one was watching." "What if I had left you behind when I discovered you were not the princess?" She shook her head. "I wouldn't have let that happen. I assumed one mention of the dragon's treasure would buy me a chance at freedom." "You almost lost it by getting so sick." "Yes, that was unexpected. But you healed me, and I'll never forget it. I'm sorry I didn't tell you my identity sooner. I carried the deception too far." "That was what you were going to tell me before we entered the castle?" She dropped her gaze and nodded. "Here." She placed a large red fire diamond in his hand. "What is this for?" "A token of my appreciation. Without your bravery, my family never would have recovered them. So thank you." Suddenly, his idea of a future with Nissa seemed ludicrous. She was a princess. He gave a wry laugh. "What's so humorous?" "Just realizing the irony. The one thing I want is what I cannot have." "You might be surprised, Aidan. What is it you want?" She took a step closer. He turned to her, almost getting lost in her blue-violet eyes. "You. But I cannot imagine a princess would be interested in a simple firebrand." Blushing, a shy smile brightened her face. "Then you don't know this princess very well." His heart took flight in his chest. "I would like to remedy that." She took his hands. "Me too, Aidan." Leaning closer, he pressed his lips to hers. His greatest adventure was just beginning.
I hope you enjoyed listening to The Greatest Adventure by J.M. Hackman, narrated by Paeter Frandsen of Christian Geek Central. If you want to read more by J.M., go to jmhackman.com to find more of her books. You can also take her quiz to find out what book trope you are. If you enjoyed this story in particular, you'll want to check out her series, The Firebrand Chronicles, a portal fantasy trilogy related to this short story. If you enjoyed listening to Paeter narrate the story, you might also enjoy listening to his audio dramas at spiritblade.com or his podcast, Christian Geek Central, where he discusses movies, video games, and all things enjoyed by self-proclaimed geeks from a Christian worldview. He also just uploaded his recent recording of the full audiobook of The Wonderful Wizard of Oz on his YouTube channel, so check that out for 4 hours of free audio. This month, we are running another giveaway themed around winter with 4 audiobooks and a 3-month Audible subscription. So if you want a chance to win, go to findingfantasyreads.com/giveaway to enter. Even if you've already shared the podcast with a friend, I bet you can think of someone else you've met who might enjoy it. Send them a link so they can binge all the episodes you've gotten to enjoy too. There are links in the show notes to make that as easy as possible for you. Thank you all for listening, and happy reading.